This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data, and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Andrey Kazakov, Vice President of Demand at AppLovin. Andrey, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thanks for having me, Art. Appreciate it.
Awesome. It's great to have you on the podcast. So let's set the stage first. Quite often in marketing, a strategy that was proven to be really effective in one area finds a second application with the other. Usually it happens when you take a holistic approach, when you zoom out, all of a sudden you can see that calculations why certain ad creatives or targeting work with one audience should absolutely work with others. From the inception of both Apple's App Store and Google Play Market, the app market has been divided between games and non-games. Analytics have been busy comparing revenues both sectors generate, number of downloads each gets, retention, and more. In this episode, we want to show you how ad tech that has been powering mobile games growth, in fact, capable to do the same thing for non-games. But first, before bridging the gap between these two, let's talk about you first. Andrey, tell us about your background, please.
For sure. Yeah, I lead a team that are responsible for non-gaming advertiser growth at AppLovin, and that includes direct advertisers, agencies, demand-side platforms, and network partnerships. I joined AppLovin when the company acquired Adjust in 2021, where I held different roles, which included being COO, president, and now currently serving as its chairman. Before that, I co-founded a company called Acquired.io, which is data aggregation platform, which joined Adjust in 2018 by an acquisition. We made analytics actionable. And even earlier, I started AppScotch as founder and CEO, which was acquired by App Annie. We pioneered paid advertising intelligence. So we're showing which ads are being run where, how much people are paying for it. So I started in this space from mobile analytics and competitive intelligence, and eventually made my way through into powering the growth itself.
Well, it's a small world. I had Annie a couple of times previously on the podcast. They're a great company as well. That's awesome. I'm sure AppLovin is the company that hardly needs any introduction, but still, how would you describe the company and what do you guys do?
AppLovin enables developers to grow their businesses, and we're focusing on making sure that our clients are successful. Businesses rely on AppLovin to grow their business, and we provide them with mission-critical technologies and full-stack solutions to power their user acquisition, monetization, measurement, and analytics when it comes to all things marketing.
Great. Now, let's recap the success mobile games have been enjoying for the last, let's say, 5 years. So what categories have been growing? What titles have been the most prominent in the mobile games arena?
Yeah, well, first off, mobile as the whole skyrocket within the COVID pandemic, right? And I would say that we've seen a lot of tremendous growth on mobile all around, on both platforms, iOS and Google Play. But I would think that categories that stand out and that has seen a lot of tremendous growth are obviously hyper-casual and casual, specifically hyper-casual gaming companies took a very significant place in the space.
Yeah, that's. I think it just tells you about the human psyche. We're kind of leaning towards games that are easy to play, easy to learn, hard to master. That's the gold formula of a really great game title. But there's very good reason why games is actually a dedicated section on both app stores. Like it's the biggest category on the mobile app landscape, and the level of engagement is probably the highest. So what ad technologies can actually be applied to advertising non-gaming apps, kind of leveraging the success with mobile games? What can we borrow from that camp?
For sure. Well, I think of that any platform out there, really, right? It just starts with games, whatever platform we'll look at when we look back. But we see a lot of change happening in the ecosystem that actually a couple years back that we see that spending is tremendously growing in non-gaming apps, and there is a huge revenue boost in subscriptions and other apps that deriving revenue on the App Store. When we think about marketing and growth and what's relevant in general, I think it's just about what people are optimizing towards. So if and at the end of the day, if mobile marketeers understand their funnel, have their specific goals, know how to grow their business, there is a technology that can provide for that. So I would say that the core of mobile marketing is significantly similar. And it starts with, if we think of key pillars, right? I think it starts with marketing analytics and measurement that gives you actionable and clean data. So mobile marketing teams, whatever they're gaming or non-gaming, can get data that they can act on, that is properly laid out, and that reflects metrics that they want to grow their business towards. That's one thing. The other important thing is ability to iterate over and innovate around creative, because eventually at the top of the funnel, people see your creatives and you get initial volume within the funnel, and that's the first thing users interact with. So ability to iterate over creative, get intelligence on how to build creatives that are continuously effective, and making it a part of the process is crucial. And I would say the last but not least is data science component of that, right? Because all ad buying and user acquisition happens according to some LTV modeling that happens, right? And depending on the company's specific business model and complexity, there are different approaches to that. It could be a very simple approach that just relies on historical average values of LTV, and those values are used in acquiring users, or it could be a more sophisticated approach when user level cohorted data is used and regression analysis is used to get a more granular and accurate LTV models. But I would say that the third pillar is predictive analytics and data science, so you can actually know what's the lifetime value of your users that you can bid on. And gaming or not, those are key aspects that everybody relies on.
We live in a very dynamic world, and the app industry mirrors its rapid changes. Your app growth depends on new knowledge and skills like never before. This December, one and only Berlin will open its doors for app marketers from all corners of the world. Go to apppromotionsummit.com/Berlin to register and be part of it. Right, that's very good point. I see mobile gaming and advertising that has been driving this industry kind of a big lab where people are trying ideas sometimes more crazier than people in non-gaming space are actually have guts or willing to try first. So it looks like the new ad formats, new approaches, new ways to engage audience, new ways to show the value, new ways to basically engage with people, make them smile, make them react to your ad. This is the lab where these ideas are being shown up, and then non-gaming space kind of picking up, borrowing these ideas from there. It's just a matter of keeping your tabs closed, keeping your eye on what's going on with the mobile advertising gaming space, and draw the parallels. Just like second, like I said in the intro, take a holistic approach. We're talking about people in both cases. Either it's a Uber app or fitness app or casual game. Essentially, people are involved in both cases, and if you can see from the analytics aggregated data that there is a new approach, there's a new ad format to engage with people when it's about the mobile game. See if you can set up a test for your app that is not a game, right?
Yeah, you made a great point, because like user acquisition in general, like there is no playbook of things that work. It is a framework to test things, and framework to test things at certain exposure that you can relate to and you can afford, and to do that at certain speed and pace and consistency. And gaming definitely paved the way for the reason that LTVs were much more aggressive and forgiving, and budgets allowed for more experimentation. But now at the current landscape, I think everybody in consumer mobile is doing its best to go multi-channel and actually be able to build a strategy that is winning. But to your point, it is about being set up to experiment at the pace that is sufficient, and and taking risks that you can afford so you can reap the rewards. That's sort of what user acquisition is. And when we think about the tech, look, at the end of the day, performance marketing, regardless of the vertical, right? It's just performance marketing. The tech itself is ML, from a user acquisition standpoint, it is ML engine that optimizes to certain down the funnel metrics. And the applicable and the most different businesses have different applicable metrics down the funnel that they want to optimize towards. If it's a delivery app, that's first order. If it's transactional finance app, that's first time deposit. For the tech on UA side, it is a CPE campaign. And we just make it happen. But from UA standpoint and advertiser standpoint, the full stack matters. How you think about the data, analytics, creative, and the flow to do creative ideation that is efficient, to produce it at scale, and data science that powers your LTV thinking. And specifically at AppLovin, we try to put ourselves in the shoes of our client to figure out how we can make their UA successful overall from all aspects of what we mentioned. For example, we really dive into their creatives and provide advice what we could do to make it serve better, make it convert better. And we really take consultative approach to all things that relate to our clients' user acquisition.
Okay, now what notable trends is AppLovin currently seeing within non-gaming app market? What do you see?
So for sure, there is a definitive pickup in offline activities, and basically everything that is related to events, restaurants, outdoor activities. People are going outside, and companies are definitely out there competing for their attention. However, even outside of that, a lot of apps in different verticals and news, like smart news, we worked with them, and after we started working together, they were successfully hitting their KPIs in 2022, and we grow their user base tremendously. Pixar creative platform, we're being a continuous partner for them in both monetization and user acquisition, and driving their growth. So I would say that there is definitive pickup in online activities, but certain players who are playing the UA game right are succeeding. And the list goes on. There are companies like Daily Yoga, sustainably growing. We were able to improve their ROAS more than by 60%, and it keeps scaling up. So I would say that folks who approach their UA with a proper strategy and planning, and do it with the right partner, succeed. But on top of just consumer businesses in those verticals. I also think that certain players and certain bigger players in verticals that have been accurate before are now on offense in terms of acquiring new users, because the environment is challenging and it's the time to actually grab the market. So I would say that things are going both ways. While environment is challenging, there's certain players that are actually approaching their user acquisition in a more aggressive fashion and growing, and we're making sure we power them at that.
Yeah, it's definitely a new brave world where you have to try things that you could imagine before COVID. You would have to apply to your business strategy to grow, to stay relevant, to retain your current user base. And yeah, you guys are a great partner for companies who need that extra boost to grow. And I should say, personal thank you for helping guys from Pixar. I love their cartoons. They're one of my all-time favorite cartoons I've ever seen. How do you see the path forward for mobile games ad tech being applied to non-games app promotion? What do you see coming up? What hasn't been tried yet?
Well, I think it is a path of continuous experiment. As we mentioned, there is a need to try new channels, experiment more, and we think that advertisers who are approaching new channels with an open mind, and taking our advice how to build their UA in a way that's going to perform are going to succeed. And as we talked before, being mindful of what you're trying to achieve and what exposure you're willing to take to test those things, and what time frame do you have to actually get there. And like good understanding of those things with the right partner is a way to go, no matter what vertical you're coming from, as long as you're thoughtful, ready to experiment, and you really understand what you can risk and what you cannot risk, and what's your timeline. I think those things enable performance marketeers to compete, provided they work with the right partner.
Absolutely. Now, we've finished the first part of the show, and there's a second one. On every episode, I get a chance to ask a few questions to every guest, is let the audience know the people who come on the show a little bit better. So here we go. Here's your chance. So what smartphone do you have now? Have you been switching between these two, giants, Android and iOS, or basically just staying one side all the time?
I use iPhone 12 Max, wasn't switching.
I see. What was your first mobile phone?
I think my first, I don't know if it counts, my first mobile device was Palm with a Wi-Fi transmitter.
Oh, I remember those guys. Yeah, it definitely counts. Like it's definitely something from the pre multi-capacity screen smartphone from those days. Now get back to present. Imagine you've left your smartphone at home for whatever reason. What would be the most missing feature for you when you're out?
It's definitely Slack.
I see. Yeah, it says a lot. Like Slack can be very addictive, and just like you cannot live without it. You're the ultimate tool for work. Now, what new app technologies could be hardware, software, you're kind of waiting for to arrive on the horizon? Not necessarily something that people kind of are talking about, kind of a trendy stuff, but for you specifically, what your smartphone is missing right now, what would you like this thing to be capable of doing?
Currently, well, I really like time zones on my watch and phone. So it helps me to relate to time my clients and colleagues are, no matter where I am. However, I do take time with pen and paper to approach certain things. So there's like no inbound factors that are distracting. Let's see what comes up next. Maybe there will be Neuralink that's going to provide for me forgetting the phone and not missing Slack.
Well, Neuralink, we'll see how it's gonna happen actually in a few years down the road. I just really hope it should not be invasive. Otherwise, I'm on board. All right, the very final question before we let you go: how can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
I can be reached via email or LinkedIn. My email is my first name dot last name at applovin.com, which is Andrey.Kazakov at applovin.com.
Okay, great. Thank you for coming on the show and spending your time with us. Thank you, Andrey.
Thank you, Art. Thanks for having me.
And that was Andrey Kazakov, Vice President of Demand at AppLovin. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. We release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe, and you'll be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.